As a stats guy, what's your relationship like with kill death ratio? Just that specific stat.
I was big on it before I worked with a team. And then I realized that it is 100% not everything. There is so much more to it.
Right.
All deaths aren't equal. There are some deaths that like are a lot better than some other deaths. Like if we could basically calculate like the worth of a death, like if it's something, let's say you got information on all 4 of the other players, that's perfect. That's like, that's as if you got like another kill elsewhere. Like it could be the equivalent of that, because now you're like, okay, 4 going mid, and now everyone else adjusts to that. They all funnel them. Right. Now 3 or 4 down and you died, but you got so much information for that. Or another one where it's like you're breaking, you slide in first, you just got to get them weak. If you get a kill, perfect. That's even better. Like we're 100% breaking there. But if you get them weak and you die, but you get the trade-off, that's just as good. I think that's one of the biggest things, like just trading in general is just such a big stat. And I'm kind of annoyed because they had it at the beginning of this game of traded deaths.
Traded death, yeah.
And they took it out. But traded deaths is such an interesting stat because it's basically like any deaths that could just be counted off as a death almost. Like it's still a death and it's still better if you were to have got the kill, but it's nowhere near as bad as some of these other deaths, you know?
Right.
Because you're working off of a teammate, you're working with them, you know? And most of the time it's, you know, resulting in some type of assist if you got them weak.
Yeah.
So I think trading is such a big thing. Important deaths are such a big thing that people don't really talk about.
Yeah.
You know, they look at KD and, you know, if someone has a 1.5, that's awesome. That's great.
Right.
If they're not making the correct decision all the time, like, you know, a 1.0 can do just the same sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say every time because 1.5s are pretty,
rare,
you know, disgusting.
Yeah.
It could completely change a map. But I just want to basically reiterate, like, every death isn't the same. Like, there are a lot of deaths that can be viewed as, like, still somewhat beneficial and sometimes even more important than some kills.
Yeah.
But
so when you're coaching a player like Shotzzy, and you never coached Hydra, did you?
I did coach Paco, yes, for a year.
So when
Cold War.
when you're coaching players like that, you know, the biggest criticism I see from the public is they play too fast.
Yeah.
They're either winning your team the map or they seem to be costing.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, players that play that fast and they get that much information, is that where the majority of the value comes from?
I think you see these comments of like, oh, they play too fast, but then you also see that every player that plays with them is like, this guy makes my job so much easier.
Right. Yeah.
And people don't, I don't see why they don't think about that in terms of this person literally played with them and could tell you that this person was so much easier to play with than this other person.
Right.
The space that, like, you know, Paco or Ant makes on the map, not even just the space, but the decisions they make can completely just, it makes everyone's ease of mind so much more because, you know, they're being those risk takers taking that space. And sometimes I will tell, you know, Ant, that's a little bit too rogue. And Damon will say that too. But there's a balance to it because let's say 8 times out of 10, that play works. If you're just playing off percentages, and that's what Respawn is at this point, like you're playing off percentages, you're playing off, especially with squad spawns now, it's just like you're playing off all the information you can get, but you're playing off percentages at the end of the day. And sometimes it's not always going to work. And that's just the reality of situation. That's just any sport, you're probably going to have that type of thing where it's you're playing off percentages, that 20%, it's just not going to work. But you're taking a risk that needed to be made. And, you know, you might be going into a gunfight knowing you're going to die. Right. But if that gunfight is easier for the guy behind you, then it's worth it, you know?
And if you get
it's
the kill,
a very
then you're
selfless
hero.
way of playing.
Yeah.
And, you know, you need that on teams, you know?
Yeah. No, that's incredible. So how has the past month been? Obviously, you're on cloud 9, you win champs. Yeah. You know, you got your diploma hanging on the wall and you're like, you know, it's all worth it. I got a ring now.
Yeah.
And then probably the craziest split I've ever seen in COD history happens. What are you staring at the ceiling at night? Or
I mean, I'll be honest, super tough mentally.
Yeah.
Because it got to a point where you're just thinking like, how much more can I do to help these guys out? Because this is like, we're trying to make this champs roster work.
Right.
And it kills me that it couldn't work, that we couldn't, or at least I couldn't do something extra or find something extra that could have maybe changed something or helped something out in some way. That's all I thought about for a month and a half straight. Like, what could I be doing differently to either get them to realize it or for us to play better in matches in some way? Super tough mentally. It's very hard because at that point, I don't want to do some type of content stuff not because I'll get hate or anything, but more so I'm thinking to myself, any extra time I have should be focused on helping the team out, not doing like a video or streaming. And that was hard for me to balance because I was like, I know I should be streaming VOD session stuff, but like, I don't know. A lot of my time is just focused on thinking about what we could be doing better. And it's just at that point, you go 0-18 map count and you're like, okay, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is just an anomaly at this point. Me and Damon are looking at each other during matches and we're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Especially like there was some weeks that we weren't doing too well in scrims, but even just a week before like the LAT match, we were doing really well in scrims. And then we go into the match and it's just like awful. Like the whole team plays bad. And we're just thinking to ourselves, like, what more could we have done? And that's always, dude, that's the worst part about something like losing at champs. Like all those champs that I lost before winning champs, every single one is what more could we have done? What more could I have done maybe to get an extra edge? Maybe to, if I watched an hour more VOD, could I have fixed something in our respawn and we wouldn't have lost that map at champs,
Yeah.
Super tough mentally. Because you might be thinking that for like a month. With the off season too.
I think the worst part of champs, if coming from the outside, well, not really the outside, but like on the outskirts of the team, I saw it so many times. The people don't really realize is that when a team loses champs, a lot of the Optic teams that I've been next to, they still go back to the PPAs, the player practice areas, and they still watch the VOD immediately after, knowing that they'll never
play that again.
They'll never spawn in again.
Competitiveness.
They'll never play that team again.
100%.
They might not even play with each other again. There's going to be a month. There's going to be 3 months of off season before a new title comes out. They're playing a new team with possibly on a new roster.
Yeah.
But those 4 guys, or in MW, 5 guys, still sit there and still watch the VOD for an hour just to see what went wrong. Yeah. And it's literally heart-wrenching. Yeah. Like, I remember filming some of the guys doing that, and I'm like, why are we doing? And Hex would look at me like, why are they doing this? And I'm like, I think it's just it's
just the mentality.
It's pure.
What you do after every map at scrims, what you do after every map at in matches. It's just built into you, and the competitiveness in you is just like, we got to see what went wrong here. Like any areas of improvement, like even if you're not going to play, you're just like, okay, what could we have done here? Where this couldn't have happened maybe.
Yeah, it's brutal.